It's been over 3 years since this game was released, and to this day it is still one of my favorite games in the Legend of Zelda franchise. The game stands out so much from its predecessors with its fully open world environment, as well as the ability to progress through the story with little to no restrictions or influence. I think it goes without saying that this game is one of the strongest entries in the series. However, no game is perfect, nor is any game without a glitch or two. Or maybe even 100. Back in 2017, I made a video where I covered most of the glitches that had been discovered at the time. While there were definitely some glitches that I didn't cover, the list was fairly limited. Fast forward 3 years later and the list has grown tremendously. There are nearly 100 more glitches in this game than there were at the time, which means that I may not be able to cover them all in one video without it being 30 minutes long. So whether it takes 1, 2, or even 3 videos, I'll be taking a look at most of the new glitches that have been discovered since then. Without further ado, let's get started. You may be familiar with these barrels, which allow you to hide underneath them and sneak around Wind Waker style, but there is a way to exploit the use of these barrels in a rather interesting way. If you pick up the barrel and flip it upside down, get on top of it, crouch, and repeatedly tap the control stick along with A, Link will attempt to pick up the barrel but will instead get thrown up into the air and flung a pretty far distance. While this doesn't have much practical use in the game, it is pretty fun just to mess around with. The bow is a very reliable weapon that can be used to take out enemies from nearly a mile away, but it also has some pretty odd side effects. These side effects include being able to moonwalk, or becoming a ballerina. To achieve these results, you'll need to pull out the bow and put it away. Just before Link puts the bow away, pause and unequip your shield. When you unpause, Link should still be holding the bow, letting you know that the glitch is active. To moonwalk, hold ZL and walk backwards. Now hold the B button and let go of ZL while still holding the control stick, and Link should be moonwalking. You can change the speed by holding another direction on the analog stick. To become a ballerina, hold up on the analog stick and jump forward. When you're in the air, press the B button. You should still be holding forward on the control stick at this point. When you land, Link will enter the running animation and freeze in place. You can rotate in circles by rotating the control stick, and thus, you'll be able to hone your ballet skills. You can also slide across the ground by jumping and holding both B and ZL. When you land, let go of ZL and Link will slide across the ground. Remember to keep holding the control stick, otherwise Link will just stop moving. Whistling is also affected by this. If you whistle while holding B and start flicking the control stick in any direction, Link will bob his head very aggressively. These are all completely useless, apart from the fact that they look pretty amusing. Continuing the trend of bow glitches, this one actually has a bit of use. If you're running low on arrows, there's an easy way to get more without having to buy or scavenge them. In Gerudo Desert, you'll find the Kakariko Bazaar, where there is a cooking pot sitting next to a tent. Stand next to the pot and pull out your bow, and the arrows should catch on fire. Shooting the tent at around this spot will allow you to pick up the arrows, and you can continue this to gather up more and more arrows. The arrow needs to be on fire every time you do this. This is most effective when you have a bow that can shoot at least 5 arrows at a time, so it could be worth it taking out a Lionel or two for their bows. There's no better way to waste your time than watching Link throw himself up into the air and flop onto the ground like an idiot. To do this, all you have to do is do a shield surf and do the spinny trick thing. I honestly have no idea what it's called, I didn't bother to do my research for that. But it's this move, and you can do it by pressing Y. Once you start spinning, you want to press X to jump. And the frame you leave the ground, you want to unequip the shield with the quick menu. When you exit the quick menu, Link will flop like so. This is pretty tough to do the first time, but with practice, it'll become easier. All I can really say about this is that it's very goofy, and it's something that I've personally had a lot of fun with. I mean, look at this. You can't tell me this isn't entertaining. You can also use this to jump over obstacles in some cases. Horses seem to be the best means of traversal in the land of Hyrule, considering the massive size of the map, but sometimes your horse will get tired of running forever, and you'll have to wait until they get their stamina back. Fortunately, there is a way to shorten that waiting period. Once you get your horse down to their last bit of stamina, you can pull out your bow and start to aim it. You'll want to press X to jump off the horse, and that will make you enter bullet time. Immediately after you press X, press A to get back on the horse, and their stamina will automatically be refilled. Do this multiple times and you'll never run out of stamina. Now, because the Master Cycle exists, this is kind of useless, but if you don't have the DLC, then you can do this instead. Now, while horses are good for traveling in the fields, they aren't necessarily equipped to traverse through a desert. you'll either need to navigate by foot, which is slow and painful, or you could ride a sand seal, which will make the journey a lot less painful. While they are very nice to have in this case, they also have their fair share of glitches. This one makes you look like you discovered SRM. To do this, just approach the sand seal or stun it with a bomb. Then press A to get on the seal, and immediately after that, press L to pull a bomb, and Link will hold his hands up in the air like this. This is known as bomb smuggling, but I prefer to look at it as Breath of the Wild's version of SRM. But this isn't the only effect you can get from this. If you do the same steps as before, but this time pull out the bow and quickly jump off the seal, Link will be holding the bow, which normally wouldn't happen. Now you can try to get onto another sand seal, but instead of being able to ride it, Link will slide away and spin in circles very quickly. Another thing you can do is to get yourself stuck just from trying to ride a sand seal. First, stun a sand seal with a bomb and stand next to it. Target, and then press both ZR and A at the same time. Link should get on the sand seal, but after that, he won't be able to move. This will continue until the sand seal moves away. Now this is actually something that I posted on the channel before, but I thought I'd put it in here anyway. For some reason, if you ride past a tree and cut it down and then turn back around, you'll see that the tree is still standing. This tree in particular cannot be cut down after you do this. You can still interact with it and climb it, but that's about all you can do. With smaller trees like this, however, you can just walk straight through them. Some trees just aren't affected by this. My theory for why this works is when you cut down a tree and move far enough away from the premises and come back, the tree will stand back up. But because we do that while the tree is still falling, the properties of the falling tree are active when we come back, which leads to weird stuff like this. I looked this up on the internet and I couldn't find any clips or websites talking about it or showing it, so I might have actually just discovered something. Now honestly, I don't really think this counts as a glitch, but it is something that I ran into while just messing around with bombs. If you place a bomb in front of a door and try to open it, the door just won't open. Sometimes Link will do a full 360 in place, or other times he'll just take a really long time to open the door. This was a very strange thing to come across, but I think I know how it works. If you look here, Link is standing about 3 or 4 feet from the door. Link is still able to open the door from that distance, but he just has to walk a little bit before he can open it. So when you place a bomb in front of the door and try to open it, the game thinks that Link is that same distance away from the door, but because he's walking in place, he can never reach the door, and thus, it won't open. If you guys have any other theories on this, let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested in seeing them. Campfires are a nice convenient way to pass time when you're far away from a stable or an inn, but sometimes your campfire can just decide to become sentient. If you place a piece of wood and flint next to a Sheikah Tower pedestal, light it, and then sit by the fire will just start floating in the air. I honestly have no idea why this happens, but it just works. One of Link's strongest abilities when it comes to combat is his two-handed weapon spin attack, which can really do a lot in fending off hordes of enemies. But it turns out that a two-handed weapon is not the only thing that Link can use with this ability. In fact, he doesn't have to use anything at all. To achieve this effect, all you have to do is charge a spin attack with a two-handed weapon, and at any point after Link starts spinning, press ZR and the B button at the same time. Link should pull his bow while still spinning, and if you press B again, Link will have nothing in his hands. Keep in mind that you must hold the Y button the entire time to keep spinning. Using this trick will allow you to save your weapon's durability, and if you have an elemental weapon like the Frost Blade, the effects will carry over. On the topic of using invisible weapons, this one just makes Link look pretty stupid. If you pull out a sword, spear, or anything that Link can throw, and then hold R, Link will hold the weapon as if he's about to throw it. Next, you'll want to side hop while holding R, and while Link is in the air, press Y and the camera should zoom back out. Next, unequip that weapon, and when you unpause, Link should have his arms out like this. For single-handed weapons, make sure you unequip your shield, or else Link will just put his arms down. This doesn't really serve any purpose other than to make Link look ridiculous. Swimming can be a great way to pass time if you have nothing else to do, but it is also the fastest way to drown yourself, so I guess it's not an all-day thing. However, one particular feature that seems to be missing from this game is the ability to swim underwater. I always found that weird since every other Zelda game before this one had that feature. Even though we can't actually swim underwater, there is still a way for us to enjoy the breathtaking scenery underneath the waves. In Lurelin Village, there are a few sets of fishing docks, but there is one in particular that will allow you to perform this glitch. It's the dock on the western side of the village as seen here on the map. When you find this dock, crouch and walk underneath it. Once you're underneath, use the Sheikah scope and walk towards the water. Once you've gone far enough, you will automatically put the scope down and you will be greeted with this. Just look at it. Very colorful, very scenic. You can even see most of the fish swimming around. This may not really count as swimming underwater, but I'd say it's close enough. Have you ever imagined Link sprinting while holding a two-handed sword with one hand? It's one thing with the Master Sword, but this? This just looks ridiculous. But here's how to achieve it. First, place a bomb on the ground, then pull out your sword. Next, put your sword away and then unequip your shield just before he puts the sword away. After that, you can pick up the bomb, throw it away, and Link should be holding his sword out even when he sprints. You can also do this with the bow, just with a few different steps. Place a bomb just like before and then hold target. Then you'll want to press ZR to pull out the bow, and after that press A to pick up the bomb. The timing for this isn't too precise, but you'll still want to do it quickly. Now you can throw the bomb and you'll get the same effect as the sword. Link is also holding an arrow, so you can change the arrow type to get varying effects. And yes, you can do both at the same time. Also, Link kinda looks like an airship when he glides. Just thought I'd put that out there. There is actually another thing you can do with the sword specifically. If you pull out the sword, put it away, and unequip your shield, Link will still be holding his sword. Now hold the R button and the whistle button at the same time, and this will happen. I honestly have nothing to say about this. I think it speaks for itself. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the loading screen, and I'm sure you've seen it multiple times from having to warp to different shrines just to find another one. Well, sometimes the loading screen can take an abnormal amount of time to finish. All you really have to do to achieve this is to go into bullet time, pull out a bomb, and then load a save. By doing this, loading screens can take up to a minute just to finish. And that's pretty much it. Nothing really happens after that. All you really get is a slow loading screen. Next! I'm sure everyone has had at least one run-in with a bokoblin, moblin, or both. Moblins are not particularly nice to their colleagues and occasionally will use them as weapons to throw at their enemies. If you want a hand in the fun, here's what you can do. When the bokoblin is thrown, wait for it to land and afterwards shoot it with an ice or shock arrow. Once you do that, they will not be able to stand back up. You can kick them around like a soccer ball or just put them out of their misery. From every divine beast, you get a new ability from the fallen champions. One of those abilities is DARUK'S protection, which is a shield that can deflect any attack, even the guardian lasers. Unlike your regular shield, however, it can only be used 3 times before you have to wait for it to become active again. Fortunately, there is a way to use the ability without ever having to wait to use it again. If you press ZL for 1 frame just before being hit by any attack, Link will still use DARUK'S protection, but if you did it right, you should still have 3 charges left. You'll also be able to tell if it worked if DARUK doesn't pop out after you use it. This is very useful for conserving your charges, but it is a frame-perfect trick and will require some practice to get it consistently. How many of you got chills the first time you heard that piano start playing, realizing that something is coming after you? The first time I saw one of those things, I nearly had a heart attack, especially after I found out they could shoot lasers. Anytime I saw one in the distance, I would hide in a bush or try to crouch past it and hope to God that it wouldn't see me. But they became less terrifying after I found out you could just make them sink through the ground. If you want to conquer your fear of the Guardians, here's how to do it. Just find a Guardian that is sitting down and freeze it with stasis. Once the stasis wears off, the Guardian should just sink into the ground. This can't be done with Guardians that are already standing, and even the ones that sit on the ground won't fall through until you kill it. Unlike every other Zelda game, Breath of the Wild doesn't have any traditional items. The closest things we have to those items are the runes, and even though they do stray away from the traditional list of items, they are exceptionally useful and you will likely be using every single one of them in some way. However, out of the 8 runes that you can use, 5 of them have cooldown periods after a single use. And considering that the stasis rune takes the most amount of time to recharge, even with the upgrade, trust me when I say impatience will set in fast. That was the case until this little trick was found. If you use any rune that has a recharge time, you can skip the cooldown period by pausing the game, watching a memory, and skipping it. When you unpause, the rune will be fully recharged. This can save you many seconds of having to wait just to use the rune normally, so there's really no excuse not to use it. Death Mountain is a very hot location, and it's usually best to wear some protective gear, so you don't, well, combust. But there is a way to navigate Death Mountain without any protective gear. It still involves you combusting though. When you catch on fire, you can take a two-handed weapon and charge a spin attack, which will put the flames out. When the flames go out, press B to cancel the spin attack. You'll have to do this several times to keep the effect going, but it will at least allow you to hold out for a little bit until you reach Goron City, where you can get the Flamebreaker armor set. Back in the desert, we can use a sand seal to change a rather interesting property of Link's mechanics. The only thing you need to do is press A to get on a sand seal, and then press B to get off. And that's it. That's literally all you have to do. Now right off the bat, nothing seems to have changed. Everything works correctly and nothing seems different at all. Until you start shield surfing. The shield surfing turn radius actually gets removed, which causes you to slide in one direction while being able to change your orientation. This effect will persist through fast travel, saves, loading screens, and even changing from normal to master mode. Riding another sand seal will put everything back to normal. This has no real practical use other than just to look cool. But I guess it counts for something knowing that you found a way to transcend the boundaries of physics. So that's about all I'm going to cover in this video, but in the next video, we'll be looking at some of the more entertaining glitches as well as a few useful ones. Either way, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more videos like this, be sure to let me know in the comments. I definitely want to start making more of these videos since there are a lot of games that I still haven't covered. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like to show your support. Also, consider subscribing if you would like to see more content like this, and don't forget to hit that bell so you'll get notifications every time I upload. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, be sure to check out some of the other videos that I've made in the past, and I will see you guys in my future videos. Bye! Bye.